questions for oral answer. Question, order. Order, question number 1 in the name of Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister.
Order. I require now some settlement in this House. Andrew Little.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister. Does he stand by his statement that, quotes, New Zealand has a diversified economy, end quotes, given that 82% of the growth in exports since the beginning of 2009 has been in dairy and wood, while manufactured exports have fallen by $1.3 billion?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, official data from Stats New Zealand show that between January 2009 and June 2015, New Zealand exports grew by just over $1 billion. But I have news for the member. I'm advised it's not the case that 82% of this growth in exports has been in dairy and wood. In fact, the real number is 20%. And I'm advised it's not the case that manufactured exports have fallen by $1.3 billion. In fact, they increased by $138 million, or 13% over the period the member refers to. So I would say yes, Mr Speaker, New Zealand has a diversified economy, and I'd also say that, like always, you should never believe the dodgy stats Labor brings to the House.
Order.
Supplementary.
Order. Order. Supplementary question. Order. Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Why did he fail to invest in diversifying the country over the last 7 years by backing research and development, investing in rural transport and improving training for our young people? And why did he increase irrigation subsidies that encouraged more milk production instead?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, despite what the member says, in fact, every single year this government has been in office that's invested more money in science and innovation. We have a highly diversified economy. It's one of the reasons it's doing well.
Right. Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Given the 500 jobs lost at Fonterra, 1,100 lost so far at Solid Energy, and now 7.5% unemployment in Taranaki, the highest in 21 years, was it a good idea for his government to concentrate regional economies on just a few basic commodities?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, I reject the proposition. We've done that. In fact, what we have done is enable the regions to diversify, and they've done that. A member might want to go around and just ask tourism operators around the region whether they're having a record time. The member might want to go out and look at ICT businesses around being supported by the rollout of ultra-fast broadband and the Rural Broadband Initiative. Member might want to look at science and innovation that's been rolled out around the country. The food industry, Mr Speaker, there are many parts of the economy that are diversified. What's not diversified is the Labor Party that has a one-track mind, thinks everything's either dairy or housing.
That's all you
Supplementary.
Order.
What happened?
Supplementary question. Order. The level now of interjection is unacceptable. I call Andrew Little for a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. With unemployment rising for the last 3 quarters and 50,000 more people unemployed today than when he became Prime Minister, when will unemployment return to pre-John Key levels, and where will the jobs come from?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I don't have the numbers with me, but I know over the last couple of years the number of jobs created in New Zealand is well in excess of 100,000. There are more people in work under this government than there ever have been in the history of New Zealand.
Supplementary.
You don't care about
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Given dairy prices are so low, manufactured exports are well below the level he inherited, the Canterbury rebuild has peaked and retail sales have stalled, how can he seriously regret the leading bank economists' view that there will be no job growth in the second half of this year and growth will slow below 2%?
Mr Speaker,
Right Honourable
the member came to the House with the correct facts. We could take them seriously, but the PMI index has increased 33 months in a row. 34 months, I stand corrected. 34 months in a row, Mr Speaker. I know the member wants to talk the New Zealand economy down because he somehow thinks that doom and gloom is going to help his failing prospects, but I can assure the member he won't. He won't, and that is why, at the mood of the boardroom, they didn't rate him very highly.
Supplementary.
You went down.
Order.
You went down.
Order. Order. Now the noise is coming from my left rather than the right, but it still must settle. Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. When he says that beef, fruit, wine and tourism are growing, why doesn't he be straight with New Zealand and admit growth across all those sectors is just $2.3 billion, while the collapse in dairy will cost the economy $8 billion? Tell the truth. He's put all the eggs in one basket, and I'm not talking about the poultry industry either.
The Right Honourable Prime
Speak
Minister.
again. So the member comes up with dodgy stats one more time, and that's why it's very hard to take him seriously. But yes, Mr Speaker, actually lots of other parts of the economy are doing very well. So the member gets up on his feet and says, because international dairy prices are down, something the government can't control, it's our fault, but because international beef prices are up, that's nothing to do with us. Well, you can't have it both ways.
Order. 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 Would the two front benches for the second request please settle? Question number 2, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.